Hey, what's up, guys? I was thinking about what I want to talk today, and I specifically didn't want to talk about Charlottesville, Virginia, because that's what everyone is talking about. That's the big news story. I don't want to seem like some bandwagoner just jumping on the bandwagon. Yeah, I'm talking about the same thing that almost every single other YouTuber is talking about. But, you know, nothing was more interesting because that incident has so many different topics in it that, yeah, I could have done something like thinking about starting a series about analyzing the countries that U.S. gives military aid to, but this is a fleeting moment. This will die down in a while and people won't talk about it anymore. That issue I could go back to at any time because it happens every year, unfortunately. Or Charlottesville, is a news incident and then it'll go away, just like the Boston Marathon bombing in 2013. No one ever talks about that again. Like, they mention it every once in a while, but it's not like it's constantly in the news. Charlottesville is constantly in the news. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going to talk about it. And specifically, I'm going to answer the question, why did it happen? Because ordinary people, when they see something horribly violent happen in their own state or in their own country, they're just like, how did this happen? We're better than this. Just what went wrong? What specific things happened? The short answer is that people think that radicalism in their particular ideology is the answer whenever faced with a threat or radicalism from some other ideology. Now, what do I mean by that? If you talk to white nationalists, there's only a few of them that will openly say that they're racist. Most of them will just say they don't believe their beliefs are racist, even though clearly they're judging people by the color of their skin. They just honestly feel that white people are, like, ethnically just programmed better. They're smarter. They can espouse the virtues of liberty and democracy in this country. That's why they're concerned that soon whites will be not a majority in this country. They will soon become minority, and they think that the U.S. will just go down the shit once that happens, because only white people can run the U.S. and make it good. Other minorities can't do that. That's what they honestly believe. So they want their own little ethno-states of white people to preserve what they believe is the liberties and freedoms and democracy, whatever. That's what they're saying. Of course, I don't believe in that. That's totally fucking retarded for a number of reasons I'll get into. But that is what they think. Now, seeing from their perspective, which I know is totally fucked up, and I don't agree with, but to understand why these things happen, you have to look at it from their point of view, even though it's completely fucked up. And most people won't bother to do that. It's like, why are you giving them a platform? Why are you defending their actions, defending their ideology, even giving them a platform, even bothering listening to them? It's because, again, if you want to know why this happens, you have to understand how they think. You have to stand their fucked up way of thinking. Otherwise, you're going to ignore the problem, and this is going to keep happening again and again and again. Like yesterday, there were riots in Richmond. I don't think it was nearly as violent as Charlottesville. Only one person got arrested. I don't think anyone got injured. They were just riots, and one person got arrested, and that was it. But if you ignore these things and just say, oh, I stand against hate and intolerance and whatever, and just say those generic things and keep on doing your ordinary lives, this is going to keep happening. From their point of view, believing that whites are genetically superior to every other race, you can see why they would be concerned that the U.S. soon, the whites are not going to be the majority. They're going to be minority. If you honestly thought that whites were the only people that are capable of running the U.S. and keeping it a democracy, then you can see why they are concerned. They also see their counterparts on the left-hand side of the aisle. They see people like Black Lives Matter, like the government putting affirmative action into the workplace, into schools. Basically, they see their equivalent of radical ideology in the opposite platform, on the opposite side of the aisle. And they see all of these liberals, all of these Democrats consistently ignoring them, not talking about them, not condemning them. Some of them directly support them, obviously. Most of Black Lives Matter, if not of all Black Lives Matter. I'm just going to pick that one group. So Black Lives Matter versus all right. I can pick any other radical leftist group that I can think, and I can pick any radical right group that I want. But those are two I'm going to compare for this video. So when the alt-right people see Black Lives Matter getting invited to the White House, giving a free pass by Democratic politicians, a huge majority of the Democratic population supports them. even though I've talked about this before on my other channel, you can look up to see why Black Lives Matter is basically the alt-right for black people. They want black people to be above everyone else. They believe that black people are better than everyone else. They are genetically superior to everyone else, and that they want to make a caste system, just like the alt-right want to make a caste system with the whites at the top and everyone else at the bottom. Black Lives Matter wants black people at the top, all the other minorities in the middle, and white people at the bottom. So the alt-right see this. They see Black Lives Matter killing white people in the streets, wanting black people to simply be released from jail just because they're black, not because they're innocent or they think they're innocent, or the specificalities, the specific case, God, I can't talk today, the specific circumstances of each crime, each case involved with a black person being in prison. They don't care about that. They just know we should free all black people. Black people should not be able to be charged with a crime by the police, whatever. You can read their whole Black Lives Matter manifesto that says all of this. So they see this being accepted by the mainstream media and mainstream US population, and they're like, okay, well, they're doing it, so we need to do this. We need to attack them. We need to make our own white ethno-state. We need to push for the white ethno-state. So then they don't win, and so we can accomplish our objectives. Man, I cannot talk today. It's getting really annoying. Now, this brings us to another point. Lots of people on the right-hand side of the aisle, or just people across the political spectrum I've seen, said that the radical left has spawned this radical right. The reason why the alt-right had a rally in Charlottesville and attacked them with the car. And attacked them, there was lots of other melee fights besides the car. The car wasn't the only violent thing that happened. They say the reason why that happened is because the radical left pushed some white people to the extreme, and that's why they created the alt-right. That's why it's risen in recent years. To which I say, no. Flat out no. Each person is responsible for his or her own actions, in his or her own actions alone. No one else's. People think that radicalism is just a natural defense mechanism for other radicals. So you see the radical left bearing down on white people for so many years, and they think, well, it's just normal that white people create their own radical party or their own radical ideology to combat that. It's just like, no. Some people do. Weak-minded people that don't have principles and values that go across race or religion, they don't matter. People that are easily gullible. People that are easily brainwashed by the mainstream media, or in this case, the right-wing media. People like that. Some people are. Again, there is no statement I can make when X happens, people do Y. There's no way I could possibly summarize all of human activity into a single sentence. Lots of white people reacted in different ways whenever Black Lives Matter was gaining popularity and they were killing white people in the streets and beating up white people in the streets and saying that blacks have immunity to the law, whatever. White people reacted in different ways. There is no one statement I can say every single white person reacted in the exact same way, because each person is an agent of his or her own actions. Some white people did this, some white people did this, did that. You know, it's just like there's no one uniform way to react to radicalism. What I believe is the right way to react to radicalism. So when I saw Black Lives Matter being pushed into the mainstream media, being invited to the White House, their ideology being pushed by Democratic politicians, I just sat there and looked at my libertarian values and say, well, no, we shouldn't grant people immunity to the law based on their skin color. We shouldn't make a caste system based on race, where some races are just held higher up than others in the legal system, in the monetary system, so blacks will just get more wealth. The government will just become more socialist and just collect all the money and give more to black people and white people at the bottom. So just no, that's not the answer. What also is not the answer is to just flip it and say, no, we should make whites immune to the law in certain regards. We shouldn't arrest white people. You know, create the White Lives Matter equivalent of Black Lives Matter, just put white in it. You know, and to have a caste system with white people at the top and black people at the bottom. No, that's not the answer, because that breaks my principles. Both radical left and radical right break my principles as a libertarian, as a moderate person in the middle. Just because I'm moderate doesn't mean that I have no principles and I don't stand up to anything, and I just find the in-between of both the left and right. No. That means I'm moderate in my response. I'm moderate in my principles. My principles do not violate other people's human rights. That's why I don't have the principle of whites being superior to blacks. And guess what? That violates blacks human rights that they are owed no matter what race they are, whenever what religion they are. They just, every single person has that. And your ideology says, no, certain people don't have those rights. Or I want a legal system that discriminates people based on race. Like, no, you can't have that. That's against my principles. That's why I'm against both. That is how some white people or some other people, just of any ethnicity, react to Black Lives Matter. A very small percentage of the population, however. And a other small percent of the population created the alt-right. Now, does that mean that Black Lives Matter is responsible for the alt-right rising in popularity in recent years? No, they're not. It's the people who created that alt-right, the individual people, the individual actions, like attacking people at rallies and running over people. Like the person running over the counter-protesters in Charlottesville, only he is responsible for that. No one else is. Black Lives Matter, for example, are responsible for his or own, each person in Black Lives Matter is responsible for his or own actions that they do when they attack white people and beat up white people just because they're white, whatever. They are not responsible for what the alt-right does. The alt-right is not responsible to whatever counterattack the radical left will have against them now. So back to the original question of why did this happen? How do so many people get radicalized by either the left or the right and they commit violence in the name of politics? The answer is that a big chunk of the American population are racist. Flat out, that's what I believe. I know it's kind of a pessimistic way of looking at the world, but all I have to do is come up with a series of questions that if you answer a certain way to them, means that you're racist. A question like, do you believe that white people are genetically superior to blacks, judging by their higher IQ results? They get those higher IQ stats because of their race. And I ask people those questions. If you say no, then you're not a racist. If you say yes, then yes, you are a racist. So if you come up with a list of 10 questions like that and ask the American population in a huge survey, each question will tack off 5–10% of the population. Whatever, just random. I don't know the exact numbers because I haven't done it. But the fact that lots of the American population believe in one or more of those statements, they just get tacked off. And you go through all the questions. Like, do you believe that black people are... God, I can't talk today. Do you believe that black people are like better than white people because of their race? And if someone says yes, boom, you're a racist. You ask all these questions like this, questions like that if you answer a certain way, you know that person's racist because they are judging someone by the color of skin. You get through all 10 of those questions, you've knocked off a huge chunk of the American population. So that's the first answer. Lots of people in this country are still racist. They just don't show it because they know that it is society-wise not acceptable. There are lots of people who support racist ideologies and support racist movements, but don't really know that they're racist. It's the same way how Americans can say, I support democracy, I support human rights, I support nonviolence, whatever. And then they go vote for a politician that does exactly the opposite. He tells them directly, yeah, I'm going to support terrorists, and I'm going to create wars, I'm going to kill innocent people, and I'm going to steal their resources. And someone who is genuinely a good person can go ahead and vote for that person because they don't think of the consequences of their actions. All those actions happen somewhere else, in some other country. They don't see it. The news doesn't report on it. The mainstream media doesn't want to talk about it. It makes the media look bad. It makes the government look bad. That's how a genuinely good person can vote for someone who supports terrorism. And they don't see a clash, like in their mentality. They just, no, it doesn't bother them. They don't think of it. They don't think, oh, I'm breaking my own principles when I do this. That's how people can say that they are for democracy and human rights, whatever, and then vote for Obama, who gives billions of dollars in military aid to dictators and terrorist regimes, whatever. And they don't see any disconnect in those actions at all. They can keep on living their lives thinking that they support democracy and human rights. The same thing goes with this. Black Lives Matter, for example, has support of a lot of white people. Well, how can white people support an ideology, support a movement that makes a caste system where whites are at the bottom? It's kind of like you're supporting something that would hurt you if it was actually implemented, like if Black Lives Matter actually took control of the country or had their ideology implemented in government programs. It's like they don't see it. They simply do not see it. They only see, oh, Black Lives Matter, oh, that means I support them because the police are killing them unjustly. Well, it's actually a really small percentage of police killings are actually unjustified. Lots of them are justified, whatever. Or they don't know the Black Lives Matter platform that was put out on the internet because people didn't want to talk about it because it made them look like how actually they are, the KKK of the black people, you know? So it's stuff like that where people just don't think about it. They don't see it in their everyday lives. They don't just go to the internet and look up, hey, what is the platform of Black Lives Matter? Holy shit. They want to do all these things that violate my human rights and violate the human rights of other white people. How can I support this? People don't do that. No. They are pressured by society. You have to support Black Lives Matter, otherwise you are racist. And they just don't even look at the platform. They say, oh yeah, I support Black Lives Matter. Yeah, I'm a good person. The same goes with some of the white people supporting the alt-right. They're like, they're not really racist. They're just kind of more edgy. You know, they're just speaking the truth. You know, they're just mad that they're being discriminated against by the government, whatever. And they don't look into the platform or the beliefs of the alt-right, and not knowing that they are championing people or giving a free pass to people that support hate. So in their everyday lives, they can say, yeah, I don't support hate. I stand against bigotry, whatever, and they go vote for Trump. You know, it's just like they don't see a disconnect. Same thing with white people who say, yeah, I support democracy and human rights, I'm going to vote on Obama, who stands for directly against that throughout the entire world. It's so hilarious. So that's the answer. So a summary of this video in a nutshell. Why do radical ideologies, both the left and the right, find so much support throughout the American population, and why do they attack people? Because a good chunk of the American population is racist against one race or another. So they'll find out an ideology that supports that, and they would support it, or at least give it a free pass. They don't know the consequences of their actions. They don't know the consequences of supporting this movement or giving a blind eye to this other movement, or voting in politicians that support these movements or these radical ideologies, whatever. They're genuinely ill-informed about movements and ideologies. If you ask a random person on the street who's a Democrat, you know, do Black Lives Matter support the fact that black people are better than rights, that black people should have certain immunities from the law? You know, if you murder someone, that the police shouldn't arrest them because that would be one more black person in jail, counting towards this unjust stat, so we just shouldn't arrest them at all. And then people would be like, nah, and they don't believe in that. If you could just go to their website, it takes 2 seconds on Google, Black Lives Matter platform, Black Lives Matter manifesto, whatever, you can look up right there. It's free for anyone who has internet access who's not in China or North Korea to look up. But people don't do that because that takes initiative. They don't see that in their everyday lives. If it's not plastered right in front of your face and you're doing everyday life, you're just not going to look at it. There are very few people like me who actually seek out information about politics, because it takes time, it takes effort. I know. It takes a lot of time. People are busy. I can see why it would be easier to not look for information about politics or look out for these specific facts that people are talking about, and just believe what the mainstream media puts in your face. You know, the little things that scroll on Facebook. Oh, I get my news from Facebook. You know, whatever anyone wants to post, I don't really look into. I don't really fact check. I don't really know if it's really accurate or not. But I see it. Yeah, a lot of my friends are sharing it, so it must be true. You know, they unconsciously think it, or they put it on the news whenever they're getting their coffee and breakfast, and they listen to mainstream media just put out bullshit lie after bullshit lie, and then they just hear it. They hear it in the mainstream media. Their friends all hear it when they're getting ready. They talk about it at work. It's like, yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. Now, what is my solution to this? I can't be criticizing this radical ideology from left and right for minutes on end and not come up with a solution. Well, the solution is to stand up for human rights, no matter what the race or religion of the people are. That's why I don't stand with Black Lives Matter, because they do not support the human rights of whites. I do not support the alt-right, because they do not support the human rights of every single non-white racial group. It's that simple. You stick to your principles no matter what the circumstances, no matter what the identities of the actors and the perpetrators or victims in a certain attack or certain crime, whatever. You stick to them no matter what. Like, murder is wrong, no matter what. Like, not in war. Okay, I have to point all these little things out so people can't criticize my arguments. But it's like, murder is wrong. It doesn't matter if a white person killed a black person. That's wrong. It doesn't matter if a black person killed a white person. That's wrong. Just every single time on how to react to something, or how to say, you know, what do I think on this particular issue? Well, let me go back to my principles, the rights that I believe that every single person should have, blah, blah, blah. And that's how I base my opinion on things. So when the alt-right says, yeah, we want to create a white ethno-state that only white people are allowed to join and everyone else just get out because they're not as good as us, that's the only way we can preserve democracy. I just sit there and like, first of all, it's fucking retarded. Second of all, if you actually want me to debunk your actual argument, not just insult you, that violates my libertarian platform of discriminating based on race. The government can't do that. to the fact that you're wanting to do that, and then uproot people from their homes, kick them out to create your stupid little white ethno-state. That's also getting rid of the minorities' rights to property. Every person, regardless of race or religion, has the right to property. And the fact that you think you can just kick them out, steal their property, and make that your little ethno-state, and they should just go somewhere else, being refugees or landless, whatever. Again, I can go through the libertarian platform and pick out all the different little things that your stupid idea violates, and that's why I don't support it. Same thing with Black Lives Matter. When Black Lives Matter say, oh, I want blacks immune from the law so to lessen the amount of black people in jail or getting arrested, whatever, it's like, no. That violates my principle of the government, again, judging people by the color of their skin. People are accountable to the law no matter what the race or religion. You can't have a caste system where people are given a free pass on crimes they commit because of the race. That violates the platform, that violates the human rights that I think that every single person should have. This is how I approach every single thing that I deal with. That's how I can be against Black Lives Matter and the alt-right at the same time and not see a disconnect, because I'm sticking with my principles that I believe in.